We're going to start off, we have three speakers. I'm going to just introduce them briefly prior to them coming forward and talking to you about what's going on in their lives. Our first speaker is Maggie Finnerty. Maggie is with the Oregon Entrepreneurial Network, and she's here to talk to us a little bit about what's going on in her neck of the woods. Maggie?
Hello. Okay, got it. I'm going to restart my timer now. Hi, everybody. My name is Maggie Finnerty, and I'm delighted to be here today. Most of you probably don't know me. I am the successor president and executive director at Oregon Entrepreneurs Network, so I'm succeeding Linda Weston. Many of you probably know Linda, so I have pretty big shoes to fill. I'm really excited to have joined OEN. I've had sort of a long career, first as an attorney and then as a clinical law professor. So I'm really glad that I was able to join OEN in the capacity that we're in here. So I'm not sure how many of you are familiar with OEN, but I thought I would just spend a minute talking about who we are, what we do, and where we serve. OEN is, again, the Oregon Entrepreneurs Network, and we are a statewide organization that provides business assistance services to entrepreneurs. We really support the growth and scaling of entrepreneurs. So if you own a business, if you're starting a business, if you're thinking about starting a business, we are here for you no matter where you live, what region in the state you're in, and no matter what industry you're in. We are industry agnostic. In other words, we help people who have food businesses, who have agricultural businesses, who have technology companies, consumer products, manufacturing, you name it, we are there for you. We are based in Portland, and so most people, when they think about OEN, they think Portland, and that's fair, but we actually, one of our big secrets is that we actually fund a few positions throughout the state. And I'll get into that more in a moment. But what we do generally is provide access to things that entrepreneurs need. And those things could be peers, so people in your field who need to meet other people in their field so you can peer network. Mentors, people who have a specific area of expertise that you need help with, we'll pair you up with them. Educational programs, so no matter who you are, no matter what kind of company you have, you still need to know something about accounting, something about marketing, something about banking, and something about finance, for example. There's other programs. So we provide educational programs on all of those aspects, plus a whole lot more. And finally, we provide access to capital through a number of different ways. Most people, when they hear of OEN, think about Angel Oregon. Who here has heard of Angel Oregon? Great. Okay, not as many as I thought. Most people know what Angel Oregon is. Angel Oregon is happening right now. The showcase, which is sort of the culmination event, is at the end of April. It's April 27th this year. And it's basically a competition where people compete for a pool of money that's an investment in their company. The top winner will get usually between $200,000 and $300,000 as an investment. This year, we launched the first step, little baby step in supporting businesses owned by women and other diverse candidates, and we've got 3 prizes for companies owned by women or people of color. So we're excited to have that. They're just cash prizes. They are not. It's not an investment and it's not a loan. We are also, for the first time ever, offering loans through Angel Oregon, and I'm telling you this because anybody who owns a business in this room is eligible to apply for Angel Oregon. It's obviously too late for this year, but think about it for next year. I also wanted to mention that because we believe, and I think you're going to hear more about this from other companies, that just going after angel financing and venture capital money is not the only option. And I feel like that's where everybody's mind goes when they think about raising money, but there are other options, and OEN wants to help you know what those options are and help you explore which option is best for you. So one of the things, and Angel Oregon is a Portland-based program, but it's available to any company. We have companies throughout the state applying for it. Other things that OEN does that you may or may not have heard of, we have an entrepreneurial summit, which typically takes place in June. That summit is where we bring entrepreneurs who've been really successful to come and talk about their experience and share their stories. It's a very inspirational event. It happens again at the end of June, or mid to end of June. Lots of people come, lots of opportunity to talk to these entrepreneurs and really learn a lot. It's a great program. And finally, we do the award ceremony. That one happens in October, and our award ceremony, many of you may have heard of, but has anyone been to the Tom Hulse Entrepreneurship Awards? Anybody? A couple of people. It's a great way. We will make sure that, I will contact the organizations that put this event on so that you all know about it when it's coming up, because we solicit nominations where companies can nominate themselves or other companies to just be recognized for what they've been able to achieve. And again, you don't need to be an OEN member. Anybody can do it. We want to just recognize successful entrepreneurship throughout the state, and we often have winners that are not in Portland. So we'll make sure you guys know about that so that you can be in the running for one of the final positions. The other thing that I wanted to mention is that those are our 3 biggest events, but we do over 60 programs a year. So the rest are all sort of educational, peer coaching and mentoring programs. One of the things we do that many people don't know about is we fund positions throughout the state of Oregon. We have 3 what we call venture catalysts. One of them is in Bend, one of them is in the Willamette Valley, and the other is in Southern Oregon. And we fund about 50% of those positions so that they can continue the work that we're doing up in Portland at a grassroots level. We recognize that it's really important to have somebody in a community who's plugged into the resources of that community, and more importantly, who's plugged into the specific needs of that community, who can help create the educational programs we need, put on the content that you need, be responsive, know who the experts are in the area so that we can make sure that we're making the right connections and providing the stuff that each business needs to be successful, which varies from person to person, but also from region to region. You may have noticed that I didn't mention Portland. Portland does not actually have a venture catalyst. We're working on that. We actually just launched a fundraising campaign to hire a venture catalyst in Portland, and I would imagine that person would be willing to serve this region. If not, I would imagine that we could talk to the people in the Willamette Valley, because it sounds like maybe nobody's serving you right now. I need to know that, so I thank the person who shared that information with me. That's my job. I want to make sure that you've got a catalyst working on your behalf here who can help connect you with all of those resources. So speaking of resources, the OEN website has a bunch of resources listed. We have a resources page. I'm happy to leave some business cards here if anybody wants to contact me directly, but at the very least, I'd encourage you all to get on our mailing list so you can find out about what's going on. We do include a calendar to regional events as well as the events that we're hosting ourselves. The next big event we're having is actually tomorrow night at the Lucky Lab in Portland. We have our monthly pub talk, and the topic is cannabis, and it's going to be really great. There's a lot of people signed up to come, as that might not be a surprise to you. We've got, I think, 170 people coming to talk about pot. So anyway, I think my time is just about up, but that's a brief overview of OEN, but keep us in mind because we really are a statewide entity, and we really want to make sure that we're supporting you guys, and we don't want you to feel left out just because we happen to have our headquarters in Portland. So thank you.
Try this.
She's the founder and director of Hatch Innovation. She's here to share her learnings and experience over the last short years with her business here. We will also have time for questions at the end, so if things are popping up as people are presenting, please take a moment to jot that down so you don't forget it, and we can capture those at that time. Go for it.
I know if I'm sitting out there after dinner or lunch, I'm going to be tired, and some of you, I can see those eyes closing. So I'm going to stand out here because I need to see what I'm looking at and what I'm doing and what you're looking at. So I wanted to show you briefly, this is Hatch Lab Baker. How many of you know where Baker City is? Those are the hands I expected to see. So it is not on the I-5 corridor, and it is just recently in October we opened a incubator and a co-working space there, and that's it with the orange things in the window. So next time you're there, if you want to see what a rural incubator co-working space looks like, come visit us. So I wanted to tell you about that. It's very new, and people say, what's the answer? What's the question you're asking me? Why Baker City, maybe? It would be a question. And the answer is, if we can do it in Baker City, maybe we can do that anywhere. So it's also part of a statewide effort called the Rural Opportunities Initiative. It's part of Business Oregon. The governor put $1 million into her budget for this, and I can't tell you any more than that right now because they're all behind closed doors, but soon you'll be hearing more about that, hopefully. I'm going to show you a 3-minute video. Whoop. About rural Oregon. So we did that video. We work out in Northeast Oregon a lot, as well as across the state. Thoughts? Question? So I do have a presentation, and my job here today. I think this is. Yeah, I have a pretty big voice, so we'll see if this works. I run a nonprofit in Portland. It does work all over the state. It's called Hatch Innovation. Our URL is Hatch the Future. And I'm here because of something I did a bit on an accident. I helped create the law in Oregon that enables Oregonians, 10 out of 10 Oregonians are now investors in their local communities. And that's what I'm going to talk to you about today. Does anyone know what I'm talking about? Right, okay. It's been live for 2 years, so I'm here to get everyone up to speed. So, I don't know where I point this. Oops. Next slide. We do 4 things. We focus on, our mission is to enable ordinary citizens to start companies that improve communities. That includes social entrepreneurship, it includes inventions, and it includes small business, the kind that create thriving local communities. I could just hit this and we can make a funny noise. Slide. So on January 15th, 7 months after we actually met for the first time, Oregon's new rules became public, allowing ordinary Oregonians, anyone who lives in Oregon, to become an investor in small business. It's for the first time in Oregon's history. Next slide. This was many, especially rural economic development folks have seen this as the missing piece, and it's called a community public offering, much like a IPO, only community-sized. 2 years ago, we launched with 10 companies. Some of them were successful, some of them were not. We launched into a community of people, much like this room. 3 people knew what we were talking about out of 200, and we're still working against that problem. They're companies of all different kinds, from food to tech to retail, invention, all kinds of things. And this community public offering has some rules. The state is regulated. This is from the federal securities, allows each state to make some distinctions within their own state related to law. And so Oregon has created one of these laws. It's actually through rulemaking. We were the 16th state. There are now over 35. They are bipartisan. Often when they are going through statute, they're voted in positively. Sometimes 100% of the legislature will vote them in. So this is real investing. It's crowdfunding or crowd investing, but it's not like Kickstarter. So it's actual securities. They're regulated. These things are from equity to debt and everything in between. An entrepreneur can raise up to $250,000. This is the smallest maximum in the country, except for one state. Most states allow you to raise up to $1 million, and in some states up to $10 million. Each person in Oregon can invest up to $2,500 per company. We're the lowest in the country. Most states allow a person to invest $5,000 or $10,000, but so there's a range of laws across the country. So why does this matter? So for the first time, stakeholders can be shareholders. Oregonians' money stays in Oregon. We did some data mining, and we looked at national statistics in 5 different age groups. And Oregonians' savings, 5 different age groups, the young people have very little, and those of us in my age bracket are supposed to have more. 1%, just 1% of our savings is $949 million, almost $1 billion, which would be a pretty big stimulus for the state of Oregon if we put 1% of our savings into our communities. It certainly supports small business in areas where large capital isn't available and a small amount of money is needed. And it is a new strategy for rural and for communities of color, as well as for Native American communities and women. The law was translated into Spanish last year. We're working with a number of the chambers for Hispanic communities. I was in Washington, D.C. last week at a meeting with the North American Securities Regulators Association. It's not where I thought I would end up in my career as an educator, talking to a bunch of regulators. But it was very exciting. There's a lot of interest across the country. National agencies are getting more interested. I met with the USDA in particular. While they're a little shell-shocked right now and don't know who their new bosses are yet, they're still in transition. They're very excited about these new laws for rural communities in particular. In Oregon, we started ways for people to actually talk about this. If they're ordinary citizens, they want to know more about this. So we created meetups. How many of you have meetups in your communities? A few of you? They're a really good strategy for getting people to come together, and the technology helps you manage the lists, and you can get people together to talk about this. It's one thing we've created. There are meetups across the state in different communities, a lot of them rural. So what kind of companies use these laws? Well, across the country, actually there was just an exit. A brewery got purchased, and the investors made 1.5 times their money, which is kind of exciting. It was the first one. But companies like the Wisdom House, which is in Baker City, it's just a bed and breakfast. Be Good Bars, you saw Jen in the video actually making her bars. She's a woman-owned company out in rural Joseph, Oregon. She's raising money. You can go to hatchoregon.com right now and invest in her company. All you have to do is be an Oregon resident. Can't make this thing stop. So this is from Slow Money. It's part of one of their principles. But I think this is an important word. We're talking about regenerative finance. So investing in real places and enterprises close to home. Investing patiently with the goal of building healthy enterprises, communities, and ecosystems over the long term. And measuring success by the world and the communities that we create, not just by the profit that we make. And I think this is one of the most transformative things happening to this country, where communities are getting power to retain capital, as well as to raise money that has been essentially untapped before. So I think that's my last slide. So more information is hatchoregon.com, or my email is up there, or hatchthefuture.org. And one of the companies that is using the law right now is going to be next up. You get to hear from a real live guy.
He is the president and CEO of Carts and Tools Supply in Corvallis, who provides manufacturing and agricultural tools for small farms.
Hi, everybody. I have a quick question for you. What do you think when you take a look at this picture? other than thank God that's not. It's a little rundown. It's probably Eastern Oregon, not anybody around here. But as an entrepreneur, when I look at this, I see opportunity. I take a look at the building with all of the wood on the side, and I say, wow, that'd make a great maker space. Probably do some welding in the basement, because I'm sure it has a good fire suppression system. I look next to it, the little yellow building with the brick side. I say that could be a great co-working space. Could be a nice innovation hub. If we get people coming down there, pretty soon the cafe will have to open, okay, because there's going to be people coming downtown. And then, when things are going good, we can celebrate at the saloon. And then I don't know if you can notice, but back down here it says dancing. That's when we've really hit the big time, when the dancers come back to town. So who am I? I'm a small business owner, Carts and Tools Supply. We've been in business 4 years. For those of you interested in small-scale agriculture who like local sustainable food, we make tools for the people that are growing that, the people that you buy your CSAs from and buy from at the farmers markets. I'm a mentor. I've mentored startups and growth stage companies at both Oregon Rains in Corvallis and Eugene, Fertilab in Eugene, Hatch Innovation up in Portland. I'm a marketer. I do my own business, marketing small companies, helping them get traction, particularly startups that are doing social good. I'm a community activist. I started the Investor Mid-Valley Meetup Group. I'm an investor. I'm an entrepreneur. So I have a philosophy on funding from a small business standpoint that we're looking at it wrong. And I think what you have to say is, what do startup businesses need and what do growth stage businesses need? Well, early stage needs curriculum provided by people like OEN and Hatch and RAIN, and they need mentors, again, provided by these organizations. At growth stage, what do we need? We need service providers and resources. So once you start to grow your business a little bit, you need someone that can be like a part-time CFO, maybe 4 hours a month. And then you need funding. Money does make a difference. So why do startups fail? Well, number one is nobody wants their product. Number two is nobody knows about the product. Number three, believe it or not, is uncontrollable growth, or they grow their team too fast and they start to have problems. Number four is money. Now this came from a quiz, actually a survey of 120 startup companies that failed. They talked to those founders. Something that we need to look at here. This is from Andrew Ratner, Advanced Maryland, who's got a pilot program going on there. Notice they talk a little bit about tech is good. Well, tech in Maryland's very good if you're in the right cities, particularly cyber tech. But they're talking about they're having a tough time in eastern and western Maryland. Does that sound like us? Sure does. Okay, so I have a solution in my mind, having mentored all of this and running my own company through it. We need to take the strategy of economic gardening to Main Street. How many people have heard about economic gardening? Good. We need to take that down because traditionally that's being applied to companies that are called second stage growth companies of $1 million or more with 10 employees or more. We need to tamp that down. For those of you that don't know what economic gardening is, it's the opposite of economic hunting. Hunting is big game hunting. You go out year after year after year trying to land that 100 employer or 200 employer company. Economic gardening, when you plant your seeds, do you water some seeds more than others? Do you fertilize some of your beds more than others? No, you give all of them the same care and you see which ones come up. We also need to engage small businesses in an ongoing conversation. That is something I think we've all heard over and over again. When you talk to small businesses, guess what? They like that and they give you information. Third, we need to reduce barriers and increase success. We need to make resources available for all small businesses that want to grow. We need to inventory the small businesses, every business in our community. We need to find out which ones of those businesses are interested in growing and which ones have the ability to grow. We need to contact them. We need to engage with them. We need to connect. We need to make access to resources simple. Now, where'd my little thing go? This is a great thing, okay? This is a ton of resources put together. Where do I start? Okay, we need to simplify things like this. There are wonderful resources out there. We need to simplify those so a small business can walk in and say, in one place in your city, how do I get started? What do I do? I've got some regulatory problems. I'd like to start a, processing center or something else. We need to make that simpler. And then we need to provide access to local capital. What would it mean to your community if 25% of your small businesses all added 2 jobs? It'd be a pretty big impact, wouldn't it? So, Carts and Tools Supply, okay? We make electric, battery-operated tools for small farms, typically 10 acres or less. Our tool is, as we like to say, revolutionary. At the beginning, when we were a very early stage company, we knew our tool worked. We didn't know if anybody would buy it. We didn't know if we'd have a market. Right now, we're selling about 65 to 70 tools a year at a little over $1,000 a tool. We have now proven in the last couple years that we have a business. We're still a startup because we still have to prove that we can grow and scale. What did we need to begin with? We needed resources. When we first launched this company, I was in Corvallis, Oregon. I thought, great, we've got an accelerator, we've got the Business Enterprise Center, we've got an economic development office, we've got a SBDC at Lynn Benton Community College, we've got SCORE. I spent 6 months going around and around and around with them, trying to find the resources that we needed to launch the company. We need market analysis help. A lot of small businesses can't afford to find someone to help them analyze their market to decide where their growth opportunities are. That's something that all of you can help provide. We need some financial modeling, not business plans, not a course at an SBDC that tells me how to put together a business plan, but someone that can really help me model what my business is going to look like in 3 and 5 years from now. We need export guidance. I got a call yesterday from a guy in Switzerland asking me why he couldn't check out on our website. Guess what? We don't ship to Switzerland. Got a call from France last week wanting to buy 2 of our tools. And we need help with manufacturing and sourcing. These are the kinds of resources that small companies need to find and need help. And we need to drop the barriers so that it's very simple for them to walk in, like a Carts and Tools, and say to one of you, hey, help me out here. This is what I need to grow. And we need funding. So how much of this can cities and counties and council of government and everybody else help provide so that it makes it easier and reduces the barriers for a small business to get up and running and to grow? So let's talk a little bit about our funding. Right now, everybody in here is an Oregonian, right? Good. Right now, we're selling 15% of Carts and Tools for $200,000. That is an equity investment. You can go to hatchoregon.com and invest in the company today. Minimum investment is $250. Maximum investment is $2,500. What will we do with those funds? Well, we'll use those funds to purchase inventory. First and foremost, we need to buy the goods so we can sell them. We import some of these goods from China, so I need to be able to buy them 3 and 4 months out. We'll spend some of that money on marketing, and we'll spend the rest on operations. Our goal is to grow to a $200,000 company, then a $500,000 company, then a $1 million company, then a $5 million company. In manufacturing, which, guys, is not easy in the United States. We were a top 5 finalist in the Willamette Angel Conference 2 years ago. We didn't get funding, and guess why? Because manufacturing businesses just don't scale versus the angel model. 95% of startup businesses and small businesses do not fit the angel funding. The 5% that do fit the angel model, only about 5 or 10% of them get any money. So we need other ways to fund other than signing the mortgage, getting a second mortgage on our house, or signing our life away, or going into our IRA or something. So we're doing the Oregon Intrastate Offering, AKA Community Public Offering, AKA crowdfunding. So you can also go to investors.cartsandtools.com and take a look at our offering. So we need to make the CPO part of our conversation every single day. It has to be something we talk about. The slowness of adoption of intrastate exemptions is and always has been the result of general lack of public knowledge as to what these exemptions do and how to use them, rather than the effectiveness of those. Anthony happened to write what? Illinois crowdfunding. He's a lawyer. He likes them. So what can we do to change this lack of knowledge? Well, we can do it by coming together. Some of the things that we've been doing in the Corvallis, Albany area. I started at Corvallis 2 years ago, Okay, we have 343 people now. We have a coffee every other week. I'm no longer involved with it. It has taken off on its own. We modeled it off of Startup Eugene, which at the time had less than 300 and now has over 700. Every other week they have a coffee down there in the morning. They have between 35 and 40 people. In Corvallis we have between about 15 and 20. People come together that are in startups or small businesses, and it's here's what I need, here's what I can offer. And it's always a different group of people. I would highly suggest getting some kind of a startup thing going in your community. We have monthly or quarterly Investor meetups. I have changed the name from Investor Corvallis to Investor Mid-Valley with the expectation that we can grow this as a group without having to everybody have their own little one. We can start to build on that. Have quarterly town halls or have events at the Lions or the Rotary or something else. Have semi-annual innovation fairs. How mwilliams people know of WIN, the Willamette Innovators Network? About 700 members. I'm an ex-board member. It's a very insular group in Corvallis, but they do an annual expo, primarily of traded sector businesses. We need to connect everybody, okay? We need to start having this conversation down at the grassroots level and start talking to people that, one, are either running small businesses that have the opportunity and the chance to grow if they have someone to help them understand how to make that pathway work. One last thing, we are having a meeting March 16th in Corvallis, Odd Fellows Club, 5:30 to 7:30 to talk about community public offerings. You might notice that's Amy up there. That's your stick face drawing. And we'll have Stuart Phillips from Red Wagon Creamery. Stuart was the first successful CPO to fund in the state of Oregon. He makes phenomenally great ice cream out of local ingredients, okay? I think he raised $180,000. Huh? Oh, he raised a bunch. And what that allowed him to do was expand his capacity, buy the containers, start selling to New Seasons Grocery, as well as other grocery stores. Perfect example, and he added employees. So you can also go to meetup.com, investor.or.corvallis to get more information. That URL will change at the end of this date to meetup.com, investor Mid-Valley. And thank you.
Network, Hatch Oregon, and Carts Tools Supply Incorporated. What questions might you have? Sarah, you have the mic, right?
Yes. I've got two questions. Number one, I think it was Michelle, the first one.
Maggie?
Maggie, sorry. You were talking about some conferences later on in the spring. Cost for them?
We're still finalizing the pricing for them. They're generally, it depends on if you're an OEN member or not. It's cheaper for OEN members, generally around $50. Don't quote me on that because we haven't finalized our pricing yet this year.
And next question is, I've heard all day about business opportunities for women, for minorities, for everything, but I haven't heard about opportunities for the disabled to go into business.
Is that directed at me? I'm happy to start if you want. I didn't know if that was for everyone.
Generally, I think it was Amy that was talking about the opportunities for the minorities, and no one's talked about how the disabled people can tap into all this.
So I think that's a great point to make. And I will tell you, as I mentioned earlier, I only recently joined OEN. And OEN has been around for a long time. We're over 25 years old now. I think we're in our 26th or 27th year now. We've never had to sort of recruit members and people. People just sort of know who we are and call us. But one of the things that I'm really passionate about is reaching out to diverse populations, which includes the disabled, LGBTQ, different racial and ethnicities. That is definitely part of our business plan for the next years. We're actually partnering right now with PDC. They have an initiative that includes a long list of how we define underserved populations. It definitely includes people with disabilities as well as veterans, which I think is another classification where we need to do better. We as an organization have not done as well as I'd like to see, and that's definitely on our radar. So I thank you for bringing that up. I think others may want to comment.
So I think my main point is about capital access. And so communities often that are geographically or that are organized in some way where they communicate with each other regularly, as in particular communities, I think the point of in terms of the community public offering and looking at new capital access, is that communities that can support each other with their own money, it gives us that kind of economic power where we don't have to go ask the bank, or we don't have to go ask permission for someone to start something. We actually can go to our own community. So it's really calling out particular communities is important, especially since they have been sort of under-resourced and left out in this conversation. But I think the big point is that any community, whether you're a physical town in a rural place, or you're a particular community identified by some other indicators, self-identified, for example, that community can come together and create its own wealth and its own opportunities. And I think that's sort of the power of what we're talking about. So it's not like we don't need to be leaving anyone out. It's sort of a way to look at all of us, from the 1% to the 99%. So now all of us get to participate, and that includes everyone.
We have another
Any other
question?
questions?
Yes, my question is for Maggie. You talked earlier about loans. I imagine you're talking about loans rather than grants for the businesses that you're involved in. You didn't talk about how those loans are collateralized. I wonder if you could do that.
Sure. So this is our first I've been very busy in my 2 months at the helm of OEN. We just started doing this. And we partnered with Business Oregon to do what's called a royalty-based loan. So the collateral is the inventory. So that's a business that's a little bit farther along than your concept stage startup. These people have a product and they're selling it. So this loan program, and there's lots of different loans that are available and lots of different programs that are available. This is the one that we're doing just because it was available to us, and we wanted to start the process. We plan to expand on this down the road. There are other loan programs that are available, and for those of you who haven't heard, I would mention Albina Opportunities Corporation. They're sort of known for supporting minority communities, but they work with all businesses, and they provide a lot of really good training, and we're going to be partnering with them soon to help provide this educational information. But they provide a lot of training on how to get loan ready. And we see at OEN, and I've seen in my career, whether as a lawyer or in economic development, that a lot of businesses fail for the exact reasons that he had put on the screen. And one of the problems is that they're just not ready to get a loan. They haven't done the things they need to do for a bank or a group like Albina Opportunities Corp, which by the way just recently changed its name to Ascent Capital or Ascent Funding. So if you see Ascent, it used to be Albina Opportunities Corp. But there are other programs out there. We have them listed on our website. I think it's really important to understand what you would need to do to be ready for a loan. We do have a couple of grants through Angel Oregon this year, but those are only available for companies that are in, and we've never done that before either. So we have sort of two new things. I hope that answered your question.
Yes, thank you.
Thanks.
Any other questions? All right, well, let's give our panel a hand again.